If you're still around for the Yu-Gi-Oh content from Master Duel, thank you so much, as we make our eventual return with Labyrinth because it's more meta relevant in Master Duel. I just want to point out something ahead of me posting content again for Master Duel, and that is Road of the Kings Metagame Report number 1 for the OCG in January of 2024. If you can see the screen clearly, you might notice a little penguin at the very end of this metagame breakdown picture. And Floowandereeze has kind of been dead in the OCG. Clearly the memes are like, Konami keeps hitting this deck and that's why we're not playing it anymore in Master Duel, and we've migrated to Labyrinth. And maybe I'll do a video kind of comparing Labyrinth and Floowandereeze and why I like those kind of decks. Vanquish Soul is in the same vein. But the OCG and Master Duel is a very different game than the TCG because of Maxi, C, as we all know. If we take a look at this metagame breakdown, which is tabulating a report of 148 top performing decks from 29 tournaments held in Japan, China, mainland, Malaysia, Taiwan, South Korea, and Vietnam in the first 10 days of January. You'll notice that Fire King is number 1, Snake Eyes is number 2. We don't have these decks in Master Duel, I don't believe, right now. I know, again, I'm just getting back into the game. Voiceless Voice, which is kind of a cool name. Branded, okay, Branded is still around, interesting. But Floowandereeze has made its way back onto the list. And why is that the case? And Labyrinth is there as well, by the way. Well, if we take a look at the deck breakdown first before we scroll down, you can see that there's 8 Floowandereeze decks and 7 Labyrinth decks, which is encouraging to see that these, I guess now you can call them older strategies, are coming back into the metagame. Why is that the case? And why is this important for Master Duel? Well, as you guys probably know, the Master Duel ban list is run by the people in the OCG. And what actually happened in the OCG is, if we scroll down here, Floowandereeze made the metagame report, and in the OCG, Floowandereeze on the Magnificent map has returned to Unlimited in the recent OCG 2024 limit regulation, and it has migrated back into the competitive scene. Now keep in mind that they still have Dimension Shifter at 2, they do not have a limit on MPIN, they still have triple pot of Duality, triple pot of Extravagance, only 1 Prosperity, just like in Master Duel, they still have Terraforming, but the deck, as soon as map went back to 3, instantly became viable again. Now, this deck goes in and out of the format depending on how the rest of the meta shapes up. If it's a hand trap heavy format, Floowandereeze suffers a lot because Ash Blossom and Imperms and whatnot really shut this deck down. And again, there are ways to play around it. If you've watched my old Floowandereeze content, you know many times we've specifically teched our decks to play around Ash and Imperms and things like that. But maybe, just maybe, we can get map back to 2 or 3. Just maybe we can get MPIN back to 2 or 3. And if that's the case, I think I will eventually go back to Floowandereeze. Right now, with the deck only having 1 pot of Duality, 1 pot of Extravagance, 1 map, 1 MPIN, like the deck is really, really nerfed. It's still usable technically, but Floowandereeze already suffers with consistency issues, and you're just going to take way more L's with this deck than you would normally. And again, if you watch my content, you know how insane of a win rate we had with this deck. And again, going back to what I said at the beginning, the reason that I really like this deck is because it plays around Maxi. Maxi is the defining card of the format in the OCG and in the TCG. Archetypes are designed around Maxi. Vanquish Soul, Labyrinth, they play around Maxi. Just like Floowandereeze. That's why I like these kinds of decks. They don't necessarily have to special summon all that much. And if you do have to special summon, you can play around the Maxi if they preemptively do it or something. Like, you don't need to special summon all that much with Labyrinth or Vanquish Soul. So that's one of the reasons why, if I'm changing from Floowandereeze into Labyrinth for returning to Master Duel, that's the reason why. And hopefully we can have somewhat of the same success with Labyrinth as we did with Floowandereeze, because the decks, while they play very differently, kind of function under the same overarching concept in, I'm trying to play around Maxi. Labyrinth still loses to hand traps like Ash Blossom, just like Floowandereeze did, and unfortunately there's not a way to dodge this right now, but there should be soon with transaction rollback. But yeah, it's interesting to see that just the simple unlimit of map, again, given that they don't really have restrictions on anything else, made this deck fully viable. And again, I'm not too versed in the meta, but if you watch my channel and you watch my Floowandereeze gameplay, when like Tearlaments came out or the game was heavily centric around like the graveyard, there were times where we main decked 3-dimensional Fissure. And it looks like this format in the OCG right now is very much dependent on the graveyard, and the three-dimensional fissure is the way to go. So I'm just putting this out there. I know that it's sad that we're not going to be playing Floowandereeze, but maybe the OCG is a foreshadowing of what will happen in Master Duel, and we'll get some viability back with Floowandereeze in the game. But yeah, stay tuned for that Labyrinth content. It will be coming.